Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Leaders Toolbox podcast. I am so excited to have you with us today, and even more excited to have Shay Marlowe with us. He is the diversity recruiter for the Minnesota Department of Human Services. I am happy and proud to say that he is a friend of mine that I got the pleasure of meeting a while back via LinkedIn. So if you are a LinkedIn fan or not, please, there are so many great, fantastic, stupendous people around the world that you get to know. And I am honored to invite Shay Marlowe here to the show today. Welcome, Shay.
Hey, thank you so much, Andre. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
It is a pleasure having you. You're going to drop some nuggets here today. So you guys that are listening, please do not get in the wreck driving. You can pull over. You can get your pens and papers out. Our show is all about enhancing not only leadership and work-life harmony for you, but also for that of those that you are leading. So we are going to jump right in, if you don't mind, Shay.
Do it.
And you correct me if I'm wrong here. So this is my question, and it's a little big, broad, and vague. So I want to hear what you have to share.
Yeah.
As a diversity recruiter, as a recruiter in general, you're a bridge between the organization and the employees and talent out there in the world. So if I'm right in saying that, I would love to hear from you. What stands out the most as you act as a bridge? Because you get to know the top people in the organization, the front line in the organization, the best talent in the world. What stands out for you the most that really rocks your world?
Yeah. Well, again, first and foremost, thank you for having me. This is a true honor. I would say the thing that stands out to me the most in my work is the opportunity to meet and connect with so many people at so many different levels. You kind of touched a little bit on it, but if I could go a little bit deeper in saying that is, as a recruiter, it is my personal responsibility, my professional responsibility to get connected to as many people and individuals, professionals as I can, because you never know who might need someone else, or who might need an introduction, or who might need a resource, a reference. So the joy that I get from it is really connecting with individuals. That's probably my top and biggest joy of it. I mean, even meeting you, man, 3+ years ago, probably mid-pandemic or pre-pandemic, it was probably mid-pandemic at that point. I was in the midst of my own journey, getting laid off, transitioning into another opportunity, meeting you, and getting the opportunity to really be inspired and motivated to really take control of my future from a personal and professional standpoint. So connections and networking is everything for me.
Wow, that is so huge. And you mentioned a key word that stood out for me, which is transition. Now, many years ago in my employeehood, I was elevated to positions of leadership, and then transitioning to my own business. And each lead provided a new perspective. So I want to ask you, you're in an interesting spot professionally because you're the bridge. So you get to see everything. So here's the question. What is it that you think would surprise employees, so people coming in, about leaders within an organization? So there's something about leaders that employees and frontline people and new employees coming in just don't know or assume about those in leadership. What would they be surprised to know?
Yeah, I think an easy one that I would put in there is to remember that leaders are people too. We oftentimes over dramatize this idea in our mind of who our leader or leaders are. And that's honestly because maybe we ourselves are a bit in that transition. We're trying to figure out where we fit in. Is this person, truly above me? Do I report to them? Do I not report to them? Do they want to get to know me? Do they not? And so we come with a sense of, honestly, some preconceptions, some bias, as we say in the DEIB world, of what we think the person is. And I truly believe that if we did a better job of just engaging that person like they were just a stranger you wanted to get to know, it would make things a lot easier. Now, that said, there will be some leaders and or managers, because we can go back and forth between what that term looks like and how that's different, who it may not go well that first meeting or that second meeting. But I would be an advocate, and I'm sure, Andre, you would agree with this as well. keep trying, keep showing up, keep being you. It will work out. Even if it's like the relationship is not exactly how I pictured it, that's okay. You're still being you. You're still being authentically yourself, and you're still trying to show up every day. But yes, remember that they're a person too. They may have problems, they have challenges, they have success, they have all the things. You just may not see it because they show up how they want to show up to work.
And the leaders may show up how they believe they need to. So there's 5 types of leaders, 5 types of managers. No bad type of leader, but there's some types of managers. And I love that you said that. Leaders are people too. And I remember being an employee, and that big day when leaders come in or the top boss, and I would watch everybody scurry about. And I tell leaders all the time, you may think you're Ralph or Sally or whatever name there are. Leaders are them to themselves. But you get around front line and everybody straightens up. They stop being themselves. They find a way to look busy. So as leaders, can they be approachable enough to allow people to be themselves? And I never understood the scurry. I said, these are people just like your people. They have a weekend, ask about it. Hey, do you have plans this weekend? Or, hey, did you see the game? Or, do you have kids? And, I know I'm Ubering my kids around like crazy. Like, just speak. And it's amazing that will yield a better connection with people.
I totally agree. I could not agree with you more. And some of my favorite leaders personally in my life, we connected just off topic things. Like you said, sports, March Madness is about to kick off. One of my favorite female mentors in my life. And the reason why I want to highlight that is a female, because one is Women's History Month. So shout out to all the women and female out there. But two, because we connected over something I never thought we would, and it was sports. I went to Michigan State, for those who may not know, go green. And I came into work one day. I was like, oh, I can't wait for the March Madness to start. She's like, oh, who do you root for? I was like, Michigan State. She's like, oh, really? She's like, okay, I root for Duke. And I was like, oh, did you go to Duke? She was like, yes, I did. And so we just started chopping up. One, I didn't even know that she attended Duke, but two, I didn't know that she was that passionate about sports, especially basketball. From there, we kept in touch easily. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm going to get a text this week saying, what are your Spartans going to do? And it was just, again, be reminded she's a person. She has, goals and dreams and interests just like I do. And ever since then, we've been close, even close.
That is so awesome. I remember a boss, one of my favorite bosses. I could not share my dream. I was a professional speaker. I was an author when I was still an employee. And I walked into the interview and I shared, hey, this is who I am. I really love the job, and I don't plan on being here for long. I couldn't not say that. So every now and then, my boss would come and ask about my dream. Say, hey, how's the speaking going? Or how's the kids going? And it was just like, bing. And then this smile comes across your face that, one, you remember, two, you care enough to ask, three, that it's okay that I have something I care about outside of work.
That's right.
And it really was so great. A 5-minute conversation can keep the gas in the tank.
That's right.
Let me ask you the flip side.
Okay.
What do you believe that leaders would do better knowing about frontline employees or new employees coming in?
Ooh. So what could leaders do, or what would they do?
What would help them if they knew more about frontline employees or new employees coming in? Because we said that we want the employees to know that leaders are people too. What should the employees, or I don't like that word should, what would best impact the employer to know about the front line?
Yeah, we've kind of been hitting on it already. This is my opinion, and I don't want to kind of repeat myself, so I may take a different perspective of it. But you even touched on it a little bit. Get to know their hopes, their dreams. I understand it's hard to be authentic about your fears and concerns, but ask them for their opinions. I would say that many leaders will create what they feel is their vision, or what is the board's vision, or sometimes the top tier's vision. But I often wonder, does any of that vision, or what percentage of that vision came from those below, from those that report up? And so I feel more empowered as an employee when my leader often ask me, Shay, what do you think of this? How do you
Mm,
feel about this? How is this going to
mm,
impact your day and your work?
mm.
Are you okay? It's almost like they're asking for my buy-in, but they're also asking for my, wait, before I get your buy-in, tell me, if this is too much, be honest.
I love
And
it.
I feel like, wow, like we're conversing here. Like we have a real relationship, a professional one, of course, but a real relationship. So I would just encourage any leader, if they could, should, or would, like ask for your staff's feedback always. And I get that oftentimes there's this theory of, well, my door is always open. People ain't gonna come to your door. People ain't
Right.
coming. You got to go to them. Stop. Hey, Shay, you got a minute? Can I talk to you? Hey, I just need 5 minutes.
Yes.
Or hey,
Yes.
I want to grab a bite to eat with you. Nothing big. Just I just want to rap with you. Or can we have a coffee? And then just act like, hey, we have this roll now, or we just rolled out this new idea. We rolled something. How's that impacting your day? How's that impacting your work? What do you think of it?
Mm,
And you can be
mm,
honest. You
mm.
want to think. I need to know your feedback in order to make sure that we're really behind this, because this is only gonna work if everyone's on board. So I
Mm.
think that having those types of conversations, woo, you set the
Shay,
stage.
I want to take a time out because you just dropped a nugget that I want to be sure that people pick up.
Yeah,
I love that you mentioned, you guys listening and you're in leadership positions, asking this one specific question. This is what we're doing, because sometimes leaders are rolling out ideas that they might not even like. The train has left the station. They got an
yeah,
email that this is what we're doing, and they need to deliver it to you with a smile. Sometimes
right,
they do have the full green light. And in my trainings, I share, when you have full control, this is the formula. When you don't have control, this is the formula. However, we need to deliver it to our team. Sometimes changes
yes,
are made just so I can still pay you.
yes,
Okay? Doesn't mean that they always agree with the change. But you
right,
dropped the nugget, and the question was, how does this change, or how does this strategy, how does this process impact your work?
yes,
What do you like? Is there anything you do differently? That's huge. How does this impact your day? Because a lot of employees are worried about their day. So it's amazing that you
yes.
can share that. Oh, that's an amazing tip.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm glad I could hit it on the head. It's just authentic. Again, going back to some of my best leaders, they were right on the money when it came to having those types of conversations.
Wow. Here's something that I like to add on for you guys listening. And I call it the leaders 3 for leaders. And I'm going to tell you, you may not want the leaders 3 from your front line. However, there's one part of it that will make a difference. So I share for leaders. You got to know, number one, your vision and vision factors. What is your vision? We talked about that. What are the 3 to 5 things that when you do them consistently, the vision takes care of itself? Then what are your expectations? Mine are the 3 Ps. Anybody I bring in, outsource with, or hire has to be positive, passionate, and productive. It's not an either or. It's got to be all 3. And then lastly, I have rules, so hey, be on time. We go back and forth, more than 3 to 4 emails about the same thing. Let's get on a call. Easily
Mhm.
clean up 17 emails that way. And then lastly,
Right.
please accompany your problem with a suggested solution. Okay. Now, with our front line, you're a leader. How about knowing your employees' vision and vision factors? What is their
Mm,
vision? Why are they there? What do they want to get out of working for the company, or with you, or for you? And then what are the 3 to 5 things that they believe, not you believe, they believe, that when they do it consistently, their vision comes true?
right.
Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. But once you know, you can help give it a big thumbs up, or help to fine tune it so they're on the right path.
Right.
So I encourage every organization, every listener, as a leader, know your leaders 3. As a leader, know your people's vision and vision factors. They will thank you
Mm,
for it, and they will follow with you.
yes. Man, talk about nuggets. You got the nuggets.
I want to ask, because your title is diversity recruiter.
Yes.
I want to ask, from a diversity perspective, what would you like organizations, companies, and leaders to understand more about the power of diversity for organizations?
Ooh, that's a that's a loaded question.
It's a big question, right?
Um, I think so. Man, I'm gonna take it from two perspectives. Um, Diversity, and I feel a little guilty when I just say diversity and not include the equity, inclusion, and belonging, because there's multiple layers to it. But let's just start with diversity, since that's part of my title. Diversity is essential. It's essential, and I think that many would agree, even if they don't look at it the same way as someone else. So one of the questions that Andre asked me to touch on prior to the start of today's session was, what are some questions? And I think one of the things that, if I were to boil it down, is that one, starting with diversity means something different to everyone, literally. So because of that, when we talk about diversity, I think it's always good or great or beneficial to say, Andre, what does diversity mean to you? Okay, thank you, Andre. I appreciate that. Let's make sure we throw that on the board, or make a note of that. Shay, what's diversity mean to you? And have a collective understanding of what each of us defines as diversity, and then go, so how do we take these definitions, these meanings, and apply it to where we want to go or where we want to be? And so I am really a big proponent of diversity of various things: culture, ethnicity, gender, thought, ability, education, socioeconomic, so many different things, religion, because it helps us, and by us, I mean whatever group or collective that I'm a part of or representing, us have a better understanding of all. Now, if your intent is to be specific and say, we are intentionally trying to exclude certain groups and certain individuals, okay, you're trying to hopefully, to some degree, own that. We have a target audience, we only want to talk to this group. But if it's, hey, we want to make sure we represent all aspects, various aspects, multiple aspects, then okay, then we can, I think you actually have more trajectory, more room for growth, because you're trying to be more inclusive. And that's why I said that DEIB is so big, because when you talk about diversity, you start getting to those other ones as well.
And you mentioned the B, belonging.
Yes.
I cannot tell you, I recently released a post on social media about the day I felt I belonged to a team. And I love all of the things that you mentioned from a diversity standpoint, whether it's race or culture and religion. And so many people are willing to either accept that or go to war over that. I love the diversity of thought and belonging, because when you can accept my ideas, or at least be willing to listen, I feel like I belong. I feel like I'm important. I feel like I'm necessary. I feel like I'm adding value. And I might not always need a raise for that. You may not always need to give a raise or a promotion or things you can't afford, because you don't have enough raises and promotions to go around. However, can we listen to a thought? And that's really, really huge. I found that anytime you have an organization, a team, and I don't care how small or how big, where everybody's thinking the same way. Now, hopefully they're all thinking towards success and winning, and everybody has their own definition of that.
Right.
But if everybody's thinking the same way, I don't know how productive or evolutionary your business can be.
That's true. Very true. And even you touched on something that sometimes gets slippery, and I know you will probably follow with me on this, is that this mentality we call group think, where group think means if there's, let's say there's 3 Andres, and all 3 of the Andres in the group all think that what success looks like is we have to earn $1 million in the next quarter. And then you have Shay, who comes in like, I think success is that we all make an impact in society, that we are able to get our mission or our vision into more communities, right? It's not a dollar amount, it's more of a how many people do we reach or impact or know what we do. Well, the concern or sometimes challenge for a Shay is that now I'm questioning, am I aligned appropriately with the other Andres in the room? Am I holding us back? Because now I think success looks like this, and they think success is this. Going back to diversity, right? What if we all come together and go, Shay, you're not wrong. As a matter of fact, that's actually just as important as if we get this $1 million for this next quarter, this next year. Absolutely. So that challenge, and I know we're going to get more into this as we continue, is sometimes that fear of feeling that, well, you have to kind of assimilate or adapt to the group and say, oh, well, if it's $1 million, then yeah, when they ask me next time what's success like, it's $1 million. When it's like, no, that.
Well, and I'm going to tell you, from a leadership standpoint, the reason you may be in the room or on the virtual call or in the conversation is your diversity of thought. So don't take that away from yourself.
Right.
I have a nonprofit that I run, and I'll be very honest. To start a nonprofit, I had to have a board. I didn't want to have a board. I like having my business the way my business is and things like that. So I'm like, okay. So I have legally as small a board as possible. It is 3 of us.
Yep. It's 3. Yeah.
There's one individual on the board. It is my job when he shares diversity of thought that I don't make him a cog and a problem deemed as a problem. I've been that diversity of thought in a company before, and although I was right about every single thing that I said, I was punished for it. To the point where now I'm either going to be loud or quiet, and either one was going to be bad for me. And now it's so interesting, the same thing that I said back then, I now get paid handsomely and get to travel the world to teach it. So right, I'm saying the same thing, and I may say it in a better way. My point about the board is I'll share an idea, an impact that I would like the organization to make. And this gentleman will say, well, I don't think that that's on par with where we originally started, and this is why. And it is my job, it is our job, it is your job as a leader listening to this today, that we do not operate off of our emotion of the minutes. And we get to say, okay, share with me more. Now, there are times where I have said, and we as a board have said, this is the way that we're going. How do we best get there? Because this is what's best for the organization and the people we're impacting. There's other times where I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. I'm thinking bigger and faster than necessary. Let's scale it back to here. And now this is really good. Thank you. Or we might have to scrap it. That's a good point for right now, because right now that's not most important and the biggest concern. So when we face with that challenge of diversity, how do we not make this person feel like a cog in the system?
Right.
Reduce our emotion of the minute, and then really make a decision on what's best moving forward. I really love that you shared that.
Yeah.
And I like that you come from both perspectives. So my next question is this. You mentioned you were in transition a couple years ago.
Yep.
And you were going to a new job. What advice would you give the new employee going into a new work environment? Because that's happening a lot. And we're going to expand on that because now we have hybrid and remote work. So some people are going into a physical workspace, and then others are going into a hybrid or remote workspace. So what advice would you give both of those individuals?
Yep, absolutely. And again, I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to do some pre-gaming over some of these questions, because I think this one it might be one of the most important ones of the day. What advice do I have? Try, if not do, be yourself. Be your authentic self, if I can go deeper than that. So many individuals, people, myself included, again, have fear-based thinking in that we are not sure if we will be accepted, or if what we do or what we say is okay or is welcome. Going back to that diversity of thought, that diversity, inclusion, belonging, equity piece. And so we will kind of, I mean, Andre and I, we know this because, you know, he's in Pennsylvania, I'm originally from Jersey. They put on this front where you think you have to be something you are not. And you will realize eventually in life, you're probably doing more harm to yourself. And at some point to the organization by not being authentically you. There's a reason why you were selected for the position. And hopefully you were selected for that position, for the opportunity, because you bring real, authentic talents, and you yourself, they see value in you and your work. So be that, lean into that. Because you are also leading by example. You're showing others that they can be themselves. I know that many of us don't go through life looking like, well, how can I be a role model? Maybe some of us, as Andre, as a parent, think like that. But others, I'm not a parent, but I know I mentor. I know that I come from a family where I, I'm on the shoulders of my ancestors. So I want to show up authentically as Shay because of who raised me and where I come from. So again, I would just encourage individuals to be authentically themselves. Now, to that end, you brought two dichotomies. One's like in person and virtual. I would say being authentically yourself across both mediums is really important because individuals might say, like, man, when you're online, you seem so maybe engaged or disengaged, and then when you're in person, you seem so engaged or disengaged, or you seem so this or that. So it's hard, again, to be sometimes authentic yourself across all mediums if you're overthinking it. So it's okay to share, like, yeah, I actually do better in person than I do virtually. I'm maybe not as engaged, or vice versa. You may say, you know what, I love virtual. It allows me to be in my space, my comfort zone. In person, maybe there's some sensory things going on that I just, I like to be in my bubble. Okay, that's okay. Now, I would like to do a bit of a disclaimer. It is not your responsibility to tell individuals what are your triggers, your personal business, as you would. But keep in mind, they don't know what they don't know. So sometimes we make assumptions thinking that people should know, like, well, don't they know I don't like to do this or be there? They won't unless you're comfortable enough to share it. And that's why I tie it back to the leadership. Leadership has to create inclusive spaces and make people feel belonging enough to feel comfortable to say that and say, hey, can I have a conversation about how I feel when I show up virtually versus in person? And many times, as long as a leader feels that you're keeping it 100 and you can still be successful and do what you've been hired and trained to do, and not cause harm to others, they will be more than accommodating.
Can I want to take a time out on that because that went down a path that I didn't know and I hadn't thought of. Because for me, it is my profession, it is my duty to be consistent. I need to be the same. When I put out videos via LinkedIn and social media, it is my job by the time I get on a Zoom call with a prospect that I'm the same person that they've watched on that video for 2 years. It is my duty that I am the same person when I hit the stage after they've hired me because we had a Zoom call. However, in the workforce world, it may be different. And you really enlightened me on that and us listeners, because they're not professional speakers like me. They don't have that same duty to the craft that I have. So they may be different from a virtual perspective compared to in person. I can't tell you how many leaders I've heard say, oh, I met my staff and they're taller than I thought, shorter than I thought, like more like this than I thought. So as a employee, and leaders are going to be employees too, I think there's a benefit in being consistent and working to be consistent in both, but there's also a self-awareness that you mentioned. Hey, I'm not as comfortable here. I'm working on being more comfortable here, but this is how I am here. This is how I am here. This is how I feel here. I'm working on it to make your company more aware of it. That's really, really interesting.
Yep. And if I could just add one more thing to that, Andre, to give you perspective, again, given our relationship, the pandemic changed a lot for individuals. How many of us were really prepared to work remotely 40 hours a week? Some of us were like, oh, I can't wait. Woo! Like it was like getting a Christmas gift. Others, over time, it became a stressor. They were like, man, so I gotta find a workspace. I got kids. So their vision, their way they perceive work changed dramatically.
And somebody can be so different from virtual to live. My last call earlier today, well, guess who was on the call with me closing a deal? My 3-year-old. My 3-year-old was sitting on my lap. Then she's playing YouTube on her phone, so I have this chattering in my ear, and I have practiced over years to maintain focus while still doing that. However, I'm ADHD. It is harder than it looks. It's harder than it looks, but when I'm live, my 3-year-old isn't there. So you may have, so if I was an employee, you may have a different me compared to how I was virtually. I really like that you shared that. And you guys listening, I hope that you can feel my sincerity because I never really thought of that before. That's really, really cool.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that. Great question.
So leaders being more aware of that, as an employee, you being more aware of that and then sharing it with your people. And then also, what are you prepared to do about it?
Right.
What are you prepared to do about it? And then sharing that information with your coworkers, your leaders, so they understand what's going on. And now a new expectation can be set. So that's really, really cool. I'd like to get into the rapid fire portion of this if you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All
I've been waiting the whole time. Like, oh, it's coming.
So here we got 3 questions. Number 1,
Okay.
boom. What was your biggest professional mistake? You entered the workforce, you're with a team, you're working somewhere, you have made a professional boo-boo, there it is. And so what was your biggest professional mistake and the lesson you learned from it that made you a better leader?
Ooh, there's so many. Let's just start there. As they say in life, you learn sometimes more from your mistakes and your failures than you do from your wins and successes. So I want to just throw that out there. But I would say if I had to pick one failure or mistake that I hugely regretted, I would say not taking advantage of the people around me. And by I say taking advantage, I really mean getting to know them, truly spending time with them. There have been a few occasions, whether it was a part-time or a full-time position, where I just came in and I was focused on work. All I wanted to do was do what I need to do and get out of there.
Yes.
And now, as y'all again have heard, I'm a diversity recruiter. So my literally part of my job is to talk to people. And I learned that over time that Shay, you get more out of your work and out of life if you get to know the people around you.
Yes.
Some people spend more time with the people they work with than they do sometimes with their family. So and I get it. Not everybody you work with is going to be, you're going to gel with. But to that end, what I'm saying is, did you make the effort though?
Yes.
Right? We talked about this at the beginning. Hey, I'm Shay. How are you? What's your, okay. We're going to spend a lot of time together. We're going to be on some projects together. I can get to know you. I said, we don't have to be best friends, but I do want to get to, oh yeah, Andre does like sports. Andre does like, that's right. He does enjoy, weekends. He spends time with his family. Okay. I got, getting to know the people around you, it makes a world of difference because why? When you need that person or when you are trying to really how hard is it to talk about spreadsheets 24 hours, but eventually you want to talk about Andre. So you told me your son plays football. How's that going? Man, did you see that football? It makes work and life so much more enjoyable when you know a little bit more about the people around you than just hey, how's that spreadsheet coming along?
I tell people all the time, and that is so powerful that you said that. Connection. First off, personal leadership and connection. Once you have a better connection, it's amazing how much more people will do for you, with you, because of you, how much more willing they are to do the favors that you ask that they don't want to do, and how much more they're even willing to deal with organizational dysfunction and change because they have a better connection with you. And I just saw a chart yesterday on Instagram. I love reels. It's all depending on who you follow. So I follow a lot of business, family, sports, finance, and it showed a chart of how much time you spend with your kids when they're young compared to when they're older, how much time you spend with your partner. The 2 most people you spend the most time with is your partner and your coworkers.
Wow.
So doesn't it make sense that you have a best connection and do great leadership and personal leadership with those individuals? Because when life with your partner ain't good, you know how life feels for you. Life with your coworkers not good, you know how life feels for you. So I love that you brought that up. That's huge. Next question.
All right.
What is something about yourself that most people will be surprised to know about you?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. And it's something it took a minute to learn about myself that I'm happy to share now. One thing that many people might be surprised to know about me is that I am an extrovert learned introvert. So if I could break that down, I have learned over time that even though I enjoy talking to people, I enjoy conversing, it fills my cup. My gas tank can run low from always being on the go, always talking, always getting to know people. So I have found a lot of joy in my adulthood, especially in the last about 5 years or so, in having some introvert time, having some time to just be alone. And sometimes people will say, like, well, you don't have to be alone to be introvert. You're right, you don't. But there are some times where, for me, being alone fills me up. I have a time to really focus in, maybe some meditation, some prayer, some reading, even listening to music for me is a way as an introvert I can fill up. Exercise alone, right? That's for me an introvert activity, right? I don't often have a workout partner. Sometimes it'd be nice too, but most times I work out by myself. And it's my time. I get filled up. I'm ready. I come back. Let's go back to being an extrovert. So I really, really have leaned into being an introvert to the point also at times, some people in my life in the past and family, they're like, you good? Like I'm not talking, or they're like, you something wrong? No, this is just, I'm taking 5 minutes. I'm taking a minute to just to re-energize, refill. That's my introvertedness that comes out. But yeah, extrovert,
so
introvert.
And it's so cool that you mentioned with your evolution and your maturity, mine as well. I am an extrovert. And people ask me, how do you like travel? I said, I love it. I love going to the gym by myself, obviously. I like doing that. I like taking a walk by myself. I get to think, or I come up with ideas, I create. Travel, I never used to like being by myself. Traveling the way I do for what I get to do has allowed me to visit cities by myself. I can get in an Uber. Thank goodness for Uber. I can go anywhere, do anything, feel comfortable doing it. I can sit in a hotel for myself for days. I go out to eat by myself. I date me better than I ever have in my whole life. And I love it. It is so, so cool. So that's awesome.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Last question.
All right.
What advice would you give those in leadership positions? No, let me change this. What advice would you give those that are new to a leadership position at their job? They are recently promoted or new to an organization as a leader?
Woo! Again, that's a heavy one. I hope that this is something that leaders who are new to their role or new to their company would already know, but I know I need it as a reminder, and I consider myself a leader depending on what space or group I'm with. And that's really don't overlook or remember the importance of listening. Listen, ask questions. I think some of the best leaders, if not most of the best leaders out there, oftentimes, and it just goes back to something we said earlier, are looking for the thoughts and opinions and buy-in of others. I read a quote one time that said, many people oftentimes think of Martin Luther King for all he's done, but they don't oftentimes realize he was surrounded with some dynamic colleagues and supporters, and who he would call even his own leaders in circles. And it's because he listened to them. He asked them questions, even to some points where some of the theories and mindsets that we hear that Martin Luther King promoted, he learned and got from the people he surrounded himself with, right? Nonviolence came, if you read up on Martin Luther King, came from Gandhi. And Martin Luther King embodied that and took that on and said, oh, this nonviolence approach seems to be a way that we might be able to create change. We did it over there. Why can't we do it over here? So there are many things in life that I think that we don't have to reinvent the wheel and say, well, I came up with this idea. And hey, what do y'all think? How do you think we should approach that? And have that authentic discussion with those around you and say, thank you. Let me chew on that. And then act. So listen. And I think listening sometimes comes in part with asking questions. Sometimes people say, ask the right questions. How you look at that, that's a whole nother probably podcast. But listen, come looking to listen. I want to hear from you.
I love that. My biggest takeaway from what you just mentioned too is we don't have to always recreate the wheel. I love that. Now we can enhance it, but we don't always have to recreate it. And I tell leaders that are coming into a new place, I call it a leader's 30. One of the pieces is knowing what you don't know. One of the pieces is also being quiet and listening and observing. And it's also assuming that something good is already happening here for this still to be a company that exists. Now, you may have been brought in because it's not existing the way they want it to exist. They're not making the revenue or whatever, but something has to be good here for this company to still be a company and you be employed. Right. So let's celebrate that. And then let's get some people on board and then we can move forward. Shay, I thank you so much for being here today. I know that you guys listening have filled up your bag with some nuggets that Shay has dropped. And I want to ask Shay, how can people get in touch? Because now they may want to know Shay. They want to say, hey, I like what Shay's talking about. I want to work for and with the organization he's at. So what's the organization's name and how could they find out more so they can be of impact for you guys and with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I do work for the state, but I'm involved in a lot of organizations in the community, both with the YMCA of the North, which is the Minneapolis State Y. I recently was selected to be a part of 100 Black Men, Twin Cities organization that's devoted and dedicated to helping young Black males in middle school and early high school figure out life and prepare for second stage of life, whether that be college, military, employment, training, things like that. So those are organizations that, again, you may see me in circles with or about. If you want to reach out to me directly, honestly, I welcome, if you want to start LinkedIn or an email, it's very easy to find me on either one of those platforms. What I can do to Andre's point is share my email, if that's all right, which is my first initial S, middle initial V as in Victor, last name, first initial is M. So svm65@hotmail.com. That's my personal email. People are like, you still got a Hotmail? Yes, I still have a Hotmail, right? So svm65@hotmail.com. Shoot me an email. Say, hey, Shay, I heard your podcast, or, I'm friends with Andre. I know Andre from some networking, what have you, and love to talk to you, set up some time. I would love that. And I would do the same, honestly, if someone else was wanting to reach out. I send you an email and say, hey, I'd love to connect. Let's set up a one-on-one. And I'm happy to do that. 20-minute, 30-minute one-on-one, virtually, on video, phone call, whatever, and get to know each other, see how we can help. But I am on LinkedIn too. So again, my first name, Shay, last name Marlowe, Marlowe. I'm also connected with Andre on LinkedIn, so you can find me there. And let's get connected and see how we can help each other. That's what I'm always about. Let's help each other.
Guys, I'm sharing with you now. Please click the links. I'm going to put the links in up above or down below, wherever you are watching or listening to this. And feel free, reach out. You will do your life, your leadership, and your work-life harmony a favor by having a conversation with Shay Marlowe. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I cannot wait to talk with you guys next time. And please remember, you now know something new. Knowing something new without applying that something new can lead to nothing new. Until next time, guys, have a fantastic rest of your day.